right, we look like we are good to go here. So, one sec. Everything's looking good. Let's take a look while people jump in. We get started here. Let's take a look at what's going on with SPY S&P right now. So we just have word that the call with Pelosi and Mnuchin for the stimulus talks, I believe Pelosi had a deadline of by today. She needed this deal to be some agreement on a deal in order for this to happen and pass and have everything kind of in line prior to the election. So again, as much as that is important and it sounds like it's a key timeline, we kind of knew that, but the market's going to react, and there will be a reaction, I think, in one direction. The second that there was news that they had gotten on that call, or the call had begun or whatever, market dropped a little bit. So we'll see what happens. Recovering a little bit now, still up about a little over 0.5% on the day. It was up over 1% earlier today, so we'll see how it kind of plays out into the close. So there's that notification, and so we'll see. I'm watching a bunch of different things, so we're going to go through a bunch of stuff that I'm watching. We'll take a look at, I'll pull up the recently viewed and we'll go through some of that stuff. Also, actually, let me go back to my EV watch. There's a couple of EV stocks that I have on here. I made a video earlier going over SPAQ, and here we are. Now we're dropping down. We hit new lows in the day, 1180. Ew. So that's SPAQ's deal. I think we hit 1180 or about there. If I go back, it doesn't look great on the trend. I mean, we completely fell out of this uptrend. 1165 or 1160 is the number. If I go to the daily chart, reason why, we have that 200 SMA at 1160. So 1160 is the next number. I'm not going to be super like crazy, like, oh, I'm going to just sell, I'm just going to get out. I'm in a bunch long term. I think it's okay, to be honest, if you're holding it long, if you're going to hold it short. Depends on your risk management, depends on what you feel, overall sentiment and everything. The overall sentiment today, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised why it's down, because if we just take a look at a couple other ones I've been paying close attention to, we have the leader of the pack at Tesla, and Tesla's down 2.5% or just about 2%, a little over 2%, and then we have, your kind of overreaction, sell-offs for SPAQ. Workhorse is down 7%. Workhorse now, we're approaching the lows of the day. So the prior low of the day was, 2036. So now we're approaching that prior low of the day, which happened this morning. So we'll see what happens there. Of course, if we take a look, I know it's kind of small, but we have this shows like the overall S&P, Dow, NASDAQ. That fell off a good bit in the morning, and that was timed up pretty well with when we had these drops. Workhorse drop, we had a similar drop, similar time period for HYLN. Same type of idea. Again, this is drop below 25, so my next area, if we can't hold, we'll probably hold in this area, to be completely honest, but if we don't hold here, probably looking closer to 20. If we can get a better entry towards 20, or if you can get an entry towards 20, that would be a better spot for HYLN, although we can certainly see this thing bounce right back up very, very quick. So that's what I'm thinking about for that. Other than that, let me actually pull up the chat because I can't even see that I have it blocked. So SPAQ, we have a bunch of I think there's a bunch of reasons why. There's overall markets down. We have Tesla down. So the overall EV space is generally down, except NIO is up. NIO is up today. A bunch of things, though. I'm thinking that we have, we take a look, let's broaden this out. We've kind of cracked this trend. So when you see a trend like this, and I'm sure that I'm not the only one that had a trend line in there, when you crack a trend like that, you'll generally get kind of like an overreaction, or like a further wick down, or a sell-off to the downside. And then we got the continuation to the downside with the market. The market's up, but we're seeing the sector is pretty kind of is down. We're seeing Workhorse down. We're seeing HYLN down. Tesla's down. So those stocks down kind of leads you to that. It leads everyone there. At the same time, we also have a lot of bag holders, a lot of people in SPAQ that are following somebody else's advice, as I will say. They a lot of people bought up in here, and so what happens when you have someone who's bought up in here and who's way overextended on their position, when you get these little spikes, you won't get continuation to the upside, because a lot of those bag holders will be selling out, and a lot of institutional investors, a lot of the bigger money that's in, they get in and they're just going to be holding, and there also potentially could be some manipulation going on here as well. But I want to see it hold at 1160. If we don't hold 1160, which we're close, we might even test that today, literally like in the next half hour. If we don't hold that, that's not going to be a good sign. We'll probably come back down towards the 10 or 11 or 10. Honestly, you wouldn't be surprised to see this stock trading under $11 at the pace that we're going at. I know it's unfortunate, I know it stinks, but it is what it is. So I don't know, that's what we've been seeing lately. Let's take a look at HYLN. Yeah, so we're pretty much around this area of generally prior consolidation, prior area that I'm looking at for potential support. If we do fall below here, then we're looking probably like 20, lower 23s. We're in here. This chart's not updated actually perfectly. So let me look at the 1 hour chart and get a better sense. Yeah, we hit 2302 is for the low. So that's what we're looking at for HYLN. I was looking for 20 probably as the next level, because if we go back to the daily chart, 20 puts us kind of in this consolidation level, which I know it's tough to see, but puts us back in here. So that's what I'm looking at for that. But it is what it is. So let's take a look at SPY, and these are the types of days that it stinks to kind of, and it's sometimes it hurts to just kind of sit there and like I'm down, and to be honest, I'm down across like more than half of my stocks are down, even though the market's up. So you have those types of days. It is what it is. But if your thesis on the stock hasn't changed, why are you gonna panic sell and get out when potentially tomorrow the stock recovers, or we have that stimulus news recovers? I would though be careful though, because we have this impending stimulus news here that's going to turn the markets in some way, shape, or form. Although as much as it sounds like it matters, I don't think it matters that much. I think they're gonna even if they don't have a deal today, they'll continue to talk about it. It's not like it's over. If there's no deal now, it's not like it's over. It's not the end of the world. So let's see how SPY is reacting. So SPY, a little recovery coming back down a little bit, and we're gonna get a reaction if they do come out and say something. We'll get a significant reaction in that for sure. So EV sector, I think, is going to be just fine after the election. Both candidates have said and do support that sector. So I think that either way, I don't think it's going to be Biden wins, then expect this, or Trump wins, expect this. I think that space is fine. I think the renewable energy sector is something that's probably more Biden focused. So I guess you can kind of factor that into EV in a sense, or maybe it kind of spills over a little bit into EV. So maybe a Biden win would bode a little bit better for that space, or for those types of plays. Again, I think it's not a big deal. I think that sector is going to be hot no matter what. That's just kind of what we're looking at. That's the sector that we are in. If I go back through and let's take a look at some other SPACs that I'm looking at. DPHC is down too. They're all getting crushed today. And this is kind of what happens. You'll see that they, when the sector kind of goes down, they'll all follow, and it is how it is. Like, what are you going to do? LCA is another one that I've been watching. I do want to see where it kind of, how it handles here. 1324. So it's down in here. So I think it's LCA, unless it goes under this bottom line here, I think it's okay for right now. Again, it's not a great play, to be honest. Short term, longer term, with a lot of these SPACs, longer term, I think they're just fine. Not too concerned. I want to look at Workhorse though, because this is one that everyone's talking about. Everyone is seemingly all about it. Now here's my chart for Workhorse. So here's what we're looking at. We're looking at a 2063. If we drop below 20, that's not going to be good. I don't know if we're going to do it. Based off of the sell-offs that we've been seeing, it's down 7% today. The market's up, so I wouldn't be surprised. I would not be surprised to see this thing crack 20 at some point in the next couple of days, based off the market, especially if we get bad news from the stimulus. If they come out and say no deal, we're going to get an overreaction to one side or the other, whether they have a deal, whether they come out and say, it's almost done, whether they come out and say, whatever. There's going to be an overreaction in some way, shape, or form. I would personally think it's going to be, my guess is that it's a no deal, or it's no deal for now, and then, we're still talking. That's my guess, but we'll see what happens. And that's going to potentially drop things today, tomorrow, which then we can see a recovery after that. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's kind of what we look at for, the stimulus kind of side of things. But dropping through the support level, I had this other trend line in here too. Crack that. Don't worry about all the trend lines. I have a bunch. It can get confusing. You don't have to do all that stuff. But falling down below, and here's our other little level here, that 2030 or so, which we're very close to hitting. We actually hit just about there today as well. So the stock's looking like it wants to kind of fall. We have that contract, the USPS contract. With that being said, that whole contract, I think that's going to weigh this down. We know a lot of people were in this stock and were expecting the contract. Everyone wants the contract. And now that, we don't, it's not like a no, it's just, they're, expecting by the end of the year, they'll get word on that contract, right? Delays due to the virus and everything like that. It makes sense, but it is what it is. So there's that. I think that's in a way to the downside. Even though we've had some good news, we've had some decent news for them lately, but I think it has not been able to really get this resurgence back on up off this bounce off the support. It's just hit the support too many times, and it's just trading very heavy. And then especially on a stock that's gotten a lot of hype, you look on social media, you look at how many people are making videos, you look at people who are tweeting on Twitter, stock twits, and when you see a lot of hype on a certain stock, the second things start going against it, the second things start turning, right? Even with SPAQ, even with a bunch of other SPAQ plays, it's very easy for people to panic sell. It's very easy for everyone to say, you know what, let me just get out. Let me just get my capital out of here and I'll play something else. And, that's also another reason why we could be seeing a sell-off here as well. So, to be honest, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised we're seeing the sell-off and the market being up but coming down right now. Let's go back to the 1 day, 1 minute. Yeah, it's coming down. So, it's going to be interesting to see how this finishes up for the rest of the day. So, we're going to watch that. And let me take a look. I'll keep an eye on if we have any stimulus news. I'll keep an eye on that here on my phone just in case. Nothing right now. I know that they're talking, so that's going to be that. Other things that I'm looking at least just in case anyone's cares. This is the stuff that I am currently in. One thing that I was looking at, ADMP today, we have that PDUFA, so one of the bigger catalysts when it comes to a small cap stock. There's a bunch of lines here. I wouldn't get too caught up in the lines. There's different time frames too being involved, so don't worry too much. But came down to this area, which is an area that I was looking at for an uptrend. So it came down to that 75-ish area, just above 75 cents. And I grabbed a little bit more. It got my average down a little bit more. So we were holding this 85 cents. Now we kind of fell to the 75 cents area. I'm fine with this. I don't like it under 70 or a little bit lower than 70. I wouldn't be too much of a fan if it does fall that far. So we'll see. But again, a day like this, when we were also seeing a lot of small caps in general. So don't get caught up in all the stocks you're in or whatever is down. Just small caps in general, stuff that I primarily trade, most of it's down. I'm in 2 stocks that are up today, and they're barely up. They're up on no volume, so I wouldn't even count those as being up by any means. A bunch of China stocks have been going. It's funny, I was in one. There was one that I've actually liked. I've talked about it a bunch of times. I feel like lately on the channel. ATIF, and so here it is. It kind of had its bottom out at $1, and it pushed on up. I actually was in I was in it, and I sold on these spikes a couple times. It was actually pretty fun. You can just set an order overnight for 125 or 124, and it would pretty much fill. You can just fill it during the day at 110 or sub 110, and every couple days over after hours or at night, you'd be able to get a fill, a sell for 125. So a couple percent to the upside, which was kind of fun for small shares, nothing crazy. Then we kind of rounded it up, and then today we had news, but they release news all the time. And so they had news, and it finally got a run to $2, and it found resistance at $2, and it came back down. What I think is kind of crazy, though, on a stock like this, is it went to $2, and then literally pre-market hours, it pretty much came back down to under 150, which is pretty nuts. And then it was it's red. It's red on the day. Stock that has news, red on the day. If that doesn't tell you, how the small cap, how small caps in general are doing. I don't know what does. And of course they have fluff news. This company puts out a lot of news. A lot of times it's fluff, so it's not really worth it. But it has been a decent play, at least buying it low, buying as close to $1 as possible. You've been able to scalp this thing. I've been able to scalp it a couple times for just a couple percent to the upside, 10, 15, 20% sometimes. Today was a bigger run, but that's it. Yes, so let's go on. Let's see what else we have. I like TBLT still. I honestly love that it's dipping. 75 cents will be the next area. I don't care. This is one of those stocks that it's a conviction trade in a sense. I don't want to say it's similar to a one that I had about with PPSI, although it kind of is in a sense. They're going to put out a press release at some point in the future, and that press release is going to be, it could be about a couple different things. I'm anticipating that press release to be about some thermal imaging, or it to be about they're now selling, in Lowe's, or something around that they're in Lowe's, or something potentially about their Amazon Prime Day sales, or something like that. I'm anticipating a PR from ToughBuilt because they actually have been selling pretty well. And for this stock to be under $1, I think that is very undervalued as of right now. But again, kind of waiting on that press release, waiting on people to kind of get more attention on this stock for it to make a bigger move. So I'm not super concerned. Let it sit, and I'm waiting for that PR. This is one of those where it's I don't really care about support resistance, although that is important to me. I don't really care too much. This is an oversold stock that has prior history of making some pretty big runs off of some news, off of some spikes. It made a pretty big run off their last earnings report, so I'm anticipating this earnings report to be good as well, which I'm not going to say hold through it, which is going to be in November, but we'll probably get some type of run up into that report before that report. That's why I like it. So there's that. Ettx was one that ran up last week on Friday. It kind of got going, and then what happened was I sold some and then I rebought some shares. So I'm waiting to buy more under $2. So I'm seeing if we can do that. But what happened was we had attention on it last week. This is a emergency use authorization for a antibody test play. So we had some news off of it last week. No, we didn't have news. We had people getting attention on it, and then it popped up to 273 pre-market hours on Monday. So I had an order at I had this order at 293, which didn't hit, of course, but I had a 243 for a couple hundred shares to sell. And then so what I did was I just sold it there, and then I rebought them at $2. And that was my first ads, and it's 203. So I'm waiting for it to go under 2 before I grab some more, which for me right now 191 is just an area that I'm looking at if it comes down here. Now this thing can get news tomorrow. And if it gets news tomorrow or this afternoon or whatever, it'll go. But, that was my anticipation, so I'm just kind of, holding up here with this guy. I like it. So THMO was one that today had news, I believe. They had news. Let me look at this one today. They had news that they were granted an extended period for their emergency use authorization. And so when that came out, or when that was kind of more widely known, this went from like 250 to, about $1 move. So I would anticipate, something potentially similar for Ettx. It's kind of what I'm thinking about. It's a similar kind of idea there as well. Other than that, though, nothing else to really talk. KTOV is an interesting one that I do like based off the chart because it's been a good play before in the past. And if we look at the daily chart, get a better sense. Here's what we're kind of seeing. And so we have this top area of resistance lately at that 460. We also have that 50 SMA, and so we're also uptrending. So we're making higher lows. So anything closer to $4 is where I'm going to be buying. I have an average at 414 for right now, so I'm up on it a little bit. I want to get more, obviously, if it comes down. I've been kind of messing around with trading in this little range, but the ultimate idea here is either news or a breakout above this line for a bigger move. Potentially $5 plus is what I'm looking at and what I'm anticipating for KTOV. So I'm in nothing crazy, but I'm in it. So there is that. It's pretty much like those are pretty much my bigger plays. Grabbing some WTRH, so I like it at that $3 support, under $3. I'm going to be cutting it. But WTRH is Waiter Holdings, a food delivery play. I think it's going to come right back into play as we move here into the fall, into the winter, as cases start spiking up. It was an amazing play back here from literally like 26 cents to $4. Like that was a crazy play. So there we go. This video will be recorded. This is going to be like posted on the channel once it like finishes and stuff. Let's take a look. I'll look at NIO. NIO's up today, so it's up almost 1%. Let's take a look at what's been going on lately with NIO. So it's holding up on VWAP, it looks like, lately. So this white line is the VWAP, volume weighted average price. So we kind of we were looking like a gap up and then sell off pre-market, pop, drop, pop, and then we kind of have been holding up on VWAP ever since, which is right around that 2770-ish area. And so that's a decent area of support for intraday, it seems like, or at least the end of the day here today. So this stock's been up. It's had some significant moves lately. So again, what we're looking at is that we've had this multiple times, these moves up, consolidation, and then another move up. So the question is going to be, how does this consolidate? Where does it start consolidating? So I want to give it some more time. I think it can come back down a little bit. I think there's also a price target of like $40 or something like that by JP Morgan. So this has been one of the plays. It's also sparked a lot of the China plays. It sparked some other Chinese electric vehicle plays, so all that stuff kind of catalyst was off of like those price target upgrades, a bunch of these stocks moving up off of that news, and then kind of trickle down to other stocks as well, which is pretty cool. So we've had that. Let's see what else. I wish I could tell you what stocks I know have press releases coming out, but the anticipation that I'm in here is for Ettx to have a press release come out on their COVID emergency use authorization for their antibody test. Also anticipating, what's it called? Where is it? TBLT to have one coming out. I have no timeline. I believe ADTX, like the timeline is supposed to be around this week, but we'll see. TBLT, there's no real timeline. I don't know. They can come any day. And then the other one that I also am looking at is HYLN. This one, the reason why is actually written down. I have this don't laugh at me. I have this thing where I wrote them down, like what if a stock has like an update or they're supposed to give an update or something like that. I'll write it down so I know like some just dates for the future. So they're supposed to give an update. This is for HYLN. So here we go. This is HYLN. Kind of just consolidating, bottoming out here right now. I know it's this kind of a stock many people don't really care about, but they have an update on 2 patient surgeries after their completion, which is supposed to happen at the end of October. So they should PR that because they PR'd a lot of things in the past. They probably will. And then they'll provide further updates, 30 days, 90 days, 180 days, and then 365 days. So with that said, that's going to be a PR. And the anticipation is that in the pre-market, they'll drop news. The stock will spike. It's done it before. And so with these prior, look at these spikes. So just making sure you have orders set here is like a key. For this one, overall uptrend as of late, but making sure you have orders set so that when you get a pre-market spike, it's probably not going to be a play that gets continuation throughout the day, but it's a quick spike play. So if you can buy it towards the bottom, or if you can buy it when it's bottoming out, you get that PR, it'll spike, and you'll make whatever percent you can make. If you're paying attention, you can kind of be more careful on those exit points. But for me, I'm looking for it to kind of hold below 50 cents first, and then we'll see. 47, we had some areas of resistance in the past. So I think a nice 10-cent spike will be pretty, doable on a spike, and then that's only for half the shares that I currently have of it. But then, of course, more if I am watching it and I catch that notification of the sell, I'll come in and I'll see what I can do. If it goes further, I'll be able to sell at a different point. So that's the idea behind that. LCA today, it was actually up and then it was down, so it's been interesting. LCA's been pretty interesting. At one point it was up barely, but not much volume, not much fluid kind of movements here. But again, we've had this pull back, held up around this area. The reason why I have this in is a previous range of support. So we're holding up around that area, showing a decent sign just above 13. That's what I'm kind of liking for that for LCA, and ultimately LCA. It's got to hold up around these areas, these wick downs to like that 1275. So we have support down to about 1275. Under there, I think it could come down probably to 12, potentially further. Ultimately, this is one of those where I'm in it. Yeah, here I have a pretty bad average, to be honest. But I'm also going to be playing it longer term, so I'm not too concerned about the day-to-day fluctuations in this guy. It's one of those plays, and I'm slowly trying to get this thing to pop up towards that 15, then be able to get out in this account, and then just hold it long in a different account where I don't have to worry about it. Same thing with SPAQ, same thing with a lot of these plays. It's like, don't worry about it, put it in a long-term account, and just set it and forget it. That's at least my approach, based off of all the the analysis, the due diligence, the research that I have personally done and that I've seen online, and I'm comfortable in doing so. Again, not taking my entire account size for here or there and putting it in that, but putting what I'm comfortable with losing, but I still feel the risk reward is pretty advantageous, at least for the next couple of months, next potentially a couple of years. That's what I'm thinking about for that. I'm also going to have a video out, I believe, tonight. I already filmed it this weekend, but I haven't gotten it to come out. But it's coming out tonight. It's going to be going over my thoughts on the reopening, so some reopening stocks and some other stuff like that. So I want to. People were asking. Everyone's always concerned. Oh, what are some good reopening stocks? Like your airline stocks. Your American Airlines, your JetBlue. Those type of stocks. Your CCL, your Carnival Cruise. So I talk about my ideas behind that, and my concern. It's kind of a concern right now that I have on stocks like that, because I think there is certainly concern there. Let's look. Let's see what else. Flux. Let's take a look at Flux. Flux Power. Okay. So we have. Let's see what we got lately. We got a pretty big it seems like we were overextended up here on that 1250 triple top. Almost quadruple top. We had a bunch of, when I say that, we have a bunch of wicks, a bunch of tops of these candles hitting in a very similar area. So that's a pretty strong resistance. Let me actually draw that in, because if I ever want to come back to this stock, it's a pretty solid area. That 1250 is a solid area of resistance for right now. We're coming down, but we're trying to, this downtrend is starting to kind of fade out into more of we're trying to consolidate. It looks like it wants to. Down 2% today, not too bad. So I would say, let's take a look. let's let it calm down a little bit, in my opinion. I like to look at the daily chart first, but to get a better sense of what's going on lately, we can zoom this guy in. We can try to see if we can find a trend. I would think that we're going to probably see this thing come down a little bit more from where it's at right now. Personally, not a huge fan based on the chart. I don't know anything about if they have news coming, earnings, if there's a catalyst or anything like that. It seems like it's in a decent sector though. So this sector has been hot, but right now let it pull back, and then let's see how this sector kind of reacts over the coming days, coming weeks, before looking at it again. That's my thoughts on that one. I'll look at these. I have not actually looked at Uber in a long time. So Uber, here's the daily chart. So this is actually a pretty solid chart. It looks like we have this, I would even play this range as of late. So we could look at this horizontal range. We kind of have like this 38-ish area, so like up in there. Now it's rough, it's not perfect, but again, we have that, and then we kind of have an uptrend developing right here based off these past couple of weeks. So this is what you want to be looking at, I would say, is hold this uptrend, higher lows, keep these higher lows coming. Doesn't have to be perfect, but keep these higher lows coming. You can even move this even like something like that. Keep these higher lows coming, and as long as these higher lows kind of stay in line, this looks like a pretty good play for a breakout eventually over this 38.50 area. Eventually, of course, be careful of wicks to the upside. And then 38.50 potentially gets us closer to that 39, which if I zoom in, or I'm zooming out, but I'm going to zoom in a sec. This 39, right, is a little bit of a gap. So if I can go zoom in again, sorry for doing that, but there's this little gap where we have this kind of gap here. So we have a 39 to like a 30, to like about 40. So we can get up into there. It looks like a decent gap, and then potentially back to, breaking these 41, 42 highs. And then again, we have, prior highs or prior, chart up here. So that's it's up decently today. So personally, I wouldn't be playing it up here because you're buying it at or close to resistance, which is not a good idea. You want to be buying it close to this trend line, or you could buy it in anticipation of a breakout. So either you can buy it and kind of know your risk going in, and either it kind of breaks out or it gets denied, or it gets rejected at this level. And okay, you have calls, you have shares, whatever it is. That's one way to do it. Or wait till it confirms above this line. So wait till it confirms up over that 38. Maybe it holds support for a day or two, and then it might rip further. Then that's a decent idea to go. But again, we have that stimulus news potentially. So if we do get that news soon, then that could be a reason why you might want to not enter anything right just yet. Because if we do get that news, I think this is going to be, if we do get bad or negative stimulus news, I think that is honestly going to be a great dip buy, because I think we're going to get this pass, depending upon the news, of course, right? But this is going to pass at some point. It's just a matter of when. That's just the idea. So that's my thoughts on that. I am using Webull Desktop, so it's actually for what it is, for a free platform, and always link down below to get 2 free stocks, like everybody says. But I like it. I recommend the platform, but I actually use it. It's pretty cool. So I'm gonna look at Apple, because I haven't looked at this one either in a little bit. Let's see. So yeah, this is a decent support area. It looks like there's this consolidation in here of this, from this 117 to like 112. So right here is a decent area, right where it's kind of fallen to, like 115 was a decent buy. It's up today. Market's up today. Makes some sense. Not super surprised with what Apple is doing right now. But I think if we get some stimulus news, this is one of those plays. To be honest, Apple personally for me is something that what I would do. The best way to go about this one for me would be to get myself. Now I know it's tough to get 100 shares because Apple is a little more expensive for someone who's just starting out. But find a way to get 100 shares and sell options out ahead of it and ride it up in a longer-term portfolio. Okay, you don't have that. Well, then you can trade options, but it's a little bit more risky in terms of the trading options, because I know people love doing it. I have done it. I personally am not a huge fan, because you're fighting a couple things. You're fighting right now. I personally would say it's you can make so much money, but you can also lose so much money in a volatility kind of period like this. If you were to buy Apple calls right now, right? And let's say you were to buy Apple, kind of like lotto calls, or let's say you want to buy Apple calls that expired like this week, so the 23rd. So let's just see. Let's say I want to buy Apple like 120s or even 115s, so I want to go in the money. Let's say I want to buy 120 calls. I'm anticipating a bigger bullish move the rest of the week. Okay, right? So they're trading at like 90 cents. Okay, cool, 95 cents. So it's going to cost me $100 for one contract. Cool, like that's fine. And then, you know, if you want to buy a bunch of contracts or however, whatever you want to do. But we get some stimulus news today. And then let's say the stimulus news is negative, that you know, there's no deal. And it's like, okay, now what? Well, we might just see a temporary dip. And Apple may drop down to like, you know, 112, or it may even come down to like 110, or even just under 110, fall to some support right in here at that 105-ish area, which is fine. I think long term it's going to be fine. It'll resume back to the upside. But again, if that is the case, you're going to be delayed, and so you push yourself a couple days back. So swing trading the option is probably not the best idea. Day trading them, scalping them, or day trading them, that's personally where I would see, where I find the best value in options trading, because the risk is lower. Now, it's still risky, but if you hold overnight and all of a sudden you wake up to the market down 2%, which is possible off of negative stimulus news, that's your risk. And then Apple, you know, maybe it gets past 120. Like we all pretty much know Apple will be over 120 at some point in the future. The question is just when, and then that's the battle you fight with options trading. So yeah, Apple's got to get over this 125. It gets over this 125, that's the next little kind of breakout to the upside, it looks like, at least from what we're seeing on the chart here. So that's our next top line, or next resistance. So again, this is Webull's desktop platform. I have a video going over how I made this customization if you want to check it out on the channel. I have a Webull playlist as well, which is also pretty cool if you want to check out some other stuff, and I'm adding to it as I make more videos about like tutorial stuff. I'll be adding to that as well. So let's go back to SPY here and see what's been going on with the market. So okay, let's zoom in on the 1 minute, 1 day, 1 minute. Yeah, so we're kind of holding up in this area right now, this 343, you know, 50-ish area seems to be what we're looking at, holding. And, you know, we're getting close to the market is about to be closed, actually, here. So it's closing in like 2 minutes. So let's see what happens. We're going to see, we'll go through it a little bit here. And then we'll see if we get any stimulus news in the next, you know, short period of time. Because I think everyone's going to be, you know, looking for that. And I'll be waiting for the updates. I'm checking my phone, so don't worry. I got it. If I get an update, I'll let you know. But Pelosi and Mnuchin are on that call apparently right now. Who knows how long it's going to go. We may not honestly see anything for a while, maybe like another hour, 2 hours from now. But when it does happen, there will be some significant move, I think, in a certain direction, depending upon that news, obviously. So I'll go to the top gainers for the day. So we have WEI. Look at this. This is running up. So this is actually, I believe, a Chinese stock. A bunch of Chinese stocks have been running up lately. So this is like a, you know, your type of penny stock play. It's up 500% today. Insanity. The stock was 73 cents, made its massive push, came back, right? Went to like 230, came back, and then went to 460. Literally held up perfectly for like most of the day, which is kind of weird. And then started popping, massive sell-off. It went from 390 to 250 in like 2 minutes. And then came right back up to 330, and then it's making a run to 550. So this is a stock that there are people out there right now who are making a ton of money on it, and there's also people out there who are getting crushed because moves like this and, you know, drops like this can crush you. So it seems like it held, or it consolidated pretty well around VWAP for most of the day. So this could be a potential after-hours runner. We'll see what happens as it goes into the close. Market has officially now, I believe, closed. So we're seeing a lot of these. XYF is also a Chinese stock, so we're seeing a lot of stuff. A lot of these Chinese stocks are moving up. CBLI was one I played a while back. It's up 46% today. Interesting. So we'll see. SPAQ, let's look at the EV plays, some of the EV stocks that I was watching. Tesla was down today, 2%. SPAQ down almost 8%. That just stinks. That's horrible. What do we have? Workhorse down nearly 8%. HYLN down 9%. NIO was up a little over 1%. So there you go. That's your kind of recap on at least some of those that we've been watching, at least here on the channel more often. 530% is insane. Yeah, if you trade options with Apple, that's good. Yep, no problem. I don't personally trade them as of now, but I'm anticipating this challenge that I'm doing on the channel, the 15,000 to 100,000 in a year, right? The thing is, I'm doing it on a margin account. It's not a cash account, so it's honestly tough. The videos that we're gonna have every Saturday, they're gonna this week. As of now, I'm down pretty decently because a bunch of my stocks have been getting killed past couple days. Now they're not super destroyed. Like I'm waiting for PRs. Like if I get a PR on a stock like that I'm in, like I'm anticipating, right? The stock will run. I'll make, it'll be up depending on how it runs and the PR and how it reads and everything. That'll be up big. And so I'm not trying to count my, chickens before they hatch by any means, but it takes like one PR for me to change my entire week. And so it's kind of just like a sitting and waiting period. But the times that you're waiting, sometimes you just get, the stocks just tick down. And now what'll really do me in, not do me in, but what'll really going to add fuel to the fire here to the already red week in this account is we get that negative stimulus news, market plummets, overreaction plummet, and I'm just like, I didn't need that. You didn't need to add gas to the fire. But it is what it is. So I'm still fine with what I'm in. No worries. I think we'll be fine. At least stuff that I'm in. There. And long term, I have a bunch of these other plays. I'll have a bunch of these EV plays longer term as well. A bunch of dividend plays as well in a longer term account. So we'll see how that goes. That's my what I'm doing at least. Let's take a look at SPY and see if we have any movement here after hours. Pull back a little bit. So after hours it's down. So it closed at 343.30. So that's like right in here. Then after hours it's down just a touch, but I wouldn't say that that's super bad because it kind of touched it's right at the lows of the day. So generally at the lows of the day you'll see decent support. So that's what we're looking to hold for right now. Now the main idea is going to be that stimulus, which will ultimately be the biggest play to watch in after hours tonight. So that's someone to be definitely on the lookout for. Depending on that news, that could be big for going long, going short on a lot of different things for the rest of this week. And then we'll see. I know no matter what's going to happen, if it is negative, if we do get negative news, or I almost can guarantee you that Trump is going to come in here in damage control mode and try to fix as soon as he possibly can. So there are potentially some games being played on that stimulus deal and news and all that stuff, but it is what it is. I just saw a funny thing on Twitter just before. People were saying when people ask or when people talk about bears, when it comes to bulls versus bears, when they say who's a bear, they literally just put up a picture of Pelosi because it's to some traders she seems as if she's holding things up, and it's like this who said this, and it's like up and down, but whatever. Let me look at least my positions to make sure we don't have any offerings post after hours. So no, nothing right now. I think it's fine. I'm not super concerned with anything. I do want to see LODE is kind of a pain because LODE is a stock that I've been watching. It's in that mining kind of space. We had that executive order that Trump put through. Let me actually change this to after hours really quick so we can see what's happening. There it is, ASTC. Going nuts in after hours. Let's pull up the wow, look at that run. Up 90, up about 100% in after hours. So that's nuts. But yeah, we had that executive order that Trump had with related to the mining industry. And so essentially really to stop relying on like countries like China for minerals and for that stuff. So this is like that mining type of company, and it just never caught. Now I don't know, maybe they're going to have something coming soon, or maybe it'll catch soon, but for me it's like, okay, it looks good, it's coiling up after this spike, so it has some room over 135-ish, right? It has some room up. I have a position just around where it's at. I want to get more if it drops towards that $1, which I will be buying. I'll be doubling it down probably if it gets to $1, but again, below $1 I'm not really a big fan, but I thought it would work out a little bit better. Maybe it will. It's just a patience game on that. And that's with a lot of the stocks that I play personally. It's just like you're throwing lines out, and it's like a lot of them, you do the research, you do the work ahead of time. There's a catalyst, there's a reason why you're in the stock, but you're just waiting for that catalyst. You're waiting for either the run-up, you're waiting for people to start catching on, or you're waiting for that press release. And if that happens, when that happens, things get going and things heat up very, very fast, and if you got to be kind of quick to catch it. But if you're not, you got to have orders set. That's how I would see it. Have your order set for stuff that but again, weeks like this when you don't have any news off of the stocks you're in, at least I'm in, it's like very, very slow. It's like, it's just like ticking down, it feels like. Because, I'm honestly, I'll admit it too, I was too heavily weighted in SPAQ. No, I wasn't over my max risk management over a full position. It was a full position for my account, but I felt very bullish on it. And it's just been kind of just down and down every day. So it's just been hurting me. But is what it is. So this is not accurate. This is actually like a day or two off. Sometimes that's the one thing I will say. Sometimes Weeble's a little bit delayed. Maybe I got to reset the platform. But here's what it actually is. It's down here. It's 1190 right now after hours. So up a little bit. Yep. Tough build. We're still waiting for the catalysts. It's kind of a pain. Let's take a look. And then So I was just saying earlier too with TBLT. We have these. We can look at these trend lines. I don't know. I'm personally not I'm not worried about these trend lines, about trend lines or anything, because it kind of cracked. I had one in here. Let me look. I had one in here like this prior, and it cracked that. So it's like, whatever. But I'm really more so waiting on that. They're gonna drop a PR, I think, and the idea is that either that or we're gonna get a run up into earnings. So I'm not really concerned with where I'm at, because if we go back to last earnings, which we zoom out, we can see last earnings, we had a pretty decent pop. Let me zoom this guy out a little bit more. I'll pull the daily chart up just so it's easier to get there quicker. Yeah, so here it is. It's tough to see. We got to zoom in. But we were trading at like 69 cents, right? Which, we're above that now. And then it went to 93. So even if worst case scenario, we get an earnings run up because we had good earnings, and with sales and stuff the way that they are, even worst case scenario with a decent earnings run up, I think we can get close to that $1 mark anyway. So having an average for me in the low 80s, I think is fine. And even if the stock went down into the low 70s, this 50 SMA, that 72 is where I'd be looking at adding more personally right now. So it hit 75 today. I want to look to see if it gets 72 tomorrow maybe, or if it doesn't, that's fine. But if it does, great. Because I'm pretty confident this is one of those conviction trades for me. So it may take some more time than I originally hoped for, but it's one of those conviction trades personally for me right now. Netflix is getting crushed. Let's take a look. Netflix is getting crushed. Looks like they missed on earnings. Boom. So Netflix is down from 525, so it's down 5% after hours. So there you go. 486 was the low. 486 exactly. Let's take a look at the Netflix 4-hour chart just to see where it may be headed. So we have, it's up in this. Honestly, it's been up and down this whole range. So we're getting towards the bottom of this recent range. So potentially, down in here under 485 would be a decent spot to even get some, or potentially get calls or longer term calls or something like that. Eventually, I would say for Netflix if you're a bull on Netflix. But it looks like this is going to be. We'll see. We had this uptrend kind of up in here. Let's draw this kind of in. We had this and then it recently cracked a couple days back, and it cracked, and boom, earnings. So bad earnings. So down 5%, which honestly, it's funny because what the stuff that I personally trade is like so much more volatile than like your average like large cap. So it's like I sometimes like that's a laugh. I'm like, Netflix missed earnings, or Apple, whatever had bad earnings, or this. Down 3%, it's down 4%, which is a pretty big move for one of those stocks. But it's like, for me, it's like, I'll take a 10%. I'll see a stock. I've been getting offerings, this summer. I got caught in a couple of offerings and, down 40% on a stock. Now, you got to have your risk management in place. So, you have your risk management in place to the point where that's not going to screw you and not going to destroy your account. But so my risk tolerance is gotten much larger as the time has gone on, because I see things a little bit differently, and as you've been doing it, you kind of get to you see more. I don't know. It doesn't hurt. Like for me, seeing a 5% drop, it's like whatever. I'll just buy more. Like it depends. It depends how I see it. Of course, if there's a certain catalyst, there's a reason why there's a drop. Yes, you got to look at that. But if there's no reason for the drop, I just tend to buy more of stocks that I'm in, like TBLT. I would love it to come down to 72 cents. Would love it. Yep, that's why you don't hold calls overnight. Yeah, I've learned the hard way too. Do you think the Chinese small caps will run all week? They certainly can. I think they're going to kind of slow down at some point, though. I think probably tomorrow, maybe get tomorrow. It depends, though. Really, what we got to see is a shift here. We got to see, like today, pretty much what happens is like these small cap Chinese plays is you have like the morning press releases, so like 7 a.m., whatever time in the morning, you'll see like, you'll get a bunch of press releases, 7 a.m., 7:30, 8, 8:30, 9, right? And if nothing, sticks, if there's nothing that's like, oh, that was a really good press release. Oh, like that stock has run before and it drops a press release, boom, If you don't get that in the morning, then you kind of will go off of, prior days kind of momentum. And so right now we're seeing the Chinese stocks going. And so if nothing happens again tomorrow morning, like today was pretty boring. We had ATIF with the Chinese stock. That had some news. It went to $2, went up like a good, for 30, 40, 50%. And then it came down, even harder and finished right on the day. But that also helped spark some Chinese stocks. So, as of right now, that's where we're looking at. Personally, I wouldn't be playing them because I think that we're bound to have, them slow down. And when these stocks, you don't want to be playing them when they're up 100%, 500%, whatever it is. You don't want to be doing that. I think we see Snap popped. Most likely Twitter and Facebook will follow. So look at Snap. Snap is popping on up over 30 now. So let's take a look for hour and to see how it's been going. I haven't been actually watching in a while. So this is a stock that I used to look at that. Look at this beautiful uptrend lately on Snap. This is actually really nice. Now it's not perfect, but you can probably just draw like a channel or something like that. So you can kind of have like something like this. We really see a clear like top line resistance. So I see it much better here. That was our top channel. So you can follow that channel all day, every day, and like that was the move. So that was a nice the past couple of weeks, honestly, a couple of months. That was a beautiful trend. I'm sure people made a ton of money in trading options on that for sure. So there we go. Facebook. Let's see what else we have. Snap is running. ASTC is the other one. It's pulling back. This is the other penny play, small cap play. So it popped at 360 and it's come right back down. But again, when you get after hours news, this is what happens. Everyone's looking for that play after hours. Everyone wants a juicy after hours runner, and that's their number one play here for right now. WEI. Ooh, look at this. This is actually interesting. Let's look at the 5-minute because it'll kind of give us a better sense. And so we had today's push, held up. This was a crazy, shakeout, but push up here, early after hours, first few minutes after hours, fell down, and then now we're ripping back up to new highs. This stock is a killer, up 547% today, and it's up another 25% here after hours. So it's a bank stock, Chinese bank stock, consumer lending, probably just, these are the types of plays, though, to be honest. I would look at them. I'm thinking about, I'm not someone who likes to recommend shorting stuff, but I'm thinking that like in these dead times that I've been noticing, like this is one of those types of plays where it's like, you don't want to risk shorting something like, because it's technically, you have your, you have uncapped losses. Like your losses are technically infinity if the stock keeps going. So you can get screwed on a short, but just to test out a strategy, I'm thinking about testing out a shorting strategy on these types of stocks for a swing. Honestly, a short swing, as risky as that is too, overnight shorts are probably not a good idea, but we'll see. I'm thinking about testing something out because like this is a stock that I can almost guarantee you tomorrow. There's no guarantees, of course, can be made, but I can guarantee you this stock was 73 cents this morning. This stock tomorrow will not be over $10. Okay, so if it pushes up towards 10 or if it stops at 7, it depends on where it kind of steadies out. Like this stock come back down, I can see it down at $2 like easily, and that's a massive short if you were able to capitalize on that. So I'm thinking about doing something like that, some type of strategy. I'll be working on that, at least thinking about what I want to do. Hopefully SPAQ just got a double bottom. Let me rock it from here. I hope so too. I'm telling you that right now. But again, 1180, we hit down towards like 1160 or so, or that was around. Actually, let me look at this again. 1160 is the 200 SMA on the daily chart. So that's one area I'm looking at. But if we go back here, 1165 was the low, or 1161. So yeah, 1160 is the number, which we came pretty close. So yeah, double bottom, I can certainly see that from here. Hopefully that's where we go. But I mean, it's just we've had such negative sentiment, I feel like, ever since. This is what I was talking about in today's video earlier about SPAQ. It was ever since like this time period we had that Nikola news, where we had the Nikola CEO stepping down, all that stuff. This stock just plummeted. Like all these stocks, all the EV stocks, they all fell off. A lot of SPAC stocks as well, not even just EV stocks, SPACs in general. And it was like, okay, you play the anticipation into the merger, then the run after the merger, you play all these different things. Okay, but then like at some point it stops working, and the pattern has stopped working recently, personally, and it stinks. But I am someone who's holding SPAQ long. And when I say long, I mean in a different account as well. Long term, yeah, this is hurting me every day. It's just ticking down. Thought it would hold up here, but it hasn't. So I'm going to see how it finishes the week, and then I'm going to either trim my position here. We have the merger in like 8 days, so it's like next week, right, 28th. And so that's what we're looking at for SPAQ, hoping for the merger to spark something. But I wouldn't be surprised to hear some news post-merger. I think Henrik is more of like the CEO, Henrik Fisker. He's more of someone who likes to tweet, and people don't like that. There's people who like the CEOs who promote their company and tweet and all that and are out there, engaging. And then there's people who don't like that. He likes to have some fun on social media, so there's that. But people don't like that. I think it's fine, and I think he's going to be someone who's going to want to drop something decent in terms of some new news, something that they got in the works that hopefully they have finalized, post-merger, and that once we get that ticker change, I think he's probably going to do something like that. That's my anticipation. So that's why I don't want to just, this is not respecting this line. We drop under 1160, probably not going to like it, but we'll see how it happens tomorrow. We get negative news. Market goes down tonight. We get negative stimulus news. I can see this thing just, dropping pretty hard with the market, but we'll see what happens. So I'm just taking a look and making sure. Let's see. I'm trying to make sure we don't have any news yet based off of stimulus. Any stimulus news, nothing yet. So just checking, making sure. Okay, PEIX. I'll take a look at PEIX. 1064 right now. This is a pretty. Oh yeah, people asked about this one. I'm not gonna touch it because it's up. It's just overextended to me. I don't also know though it's a renewable play. So this is one of those that if we do have Biden win the election, then this is a stock I think is going to be certainly in play because renewable energy is a decent play for Biden. At least I know a lot of renewable energy stocks. And also you can also think about this stock too with the debate coming up this week. There's also a debate, so that's another idea too. Debate. Biden election, we have all that stuff potentially, polls right now looking towards Biden, whatever that means. Again, we know what happened, 4 years ago. So I don't know. I personally don't trust the polls. I'm just going to, wait till we get actual numbers, wait till the real results come in. That's just my take. But polls will probably, are probably shaping the market right now a little bit, to be honest. So it's running on up. I don't know. You can draw a trend line. I mean, personally, this is like a very steep, you can draw trends inside of trends. I would look to probably like a 1 hour chart and see if we can find something in here. It's probably going to hold up. We have higher lows developing that hold up over $10 support would probably be the area I would be looking for an entry if I really wanted to play it. But if you're in it, ride this up, put a trailing stop. That's how I would look to play it. But again, I think this is going to be in play for sure post-election or around the debate time. So like play the day after the debate or the day before the debate, getting in early. This could be a play if this is a hot topic during the debate. So that's my take on that one. JFU, let's take a look. Let's see what we have. So we have WEI, and then we have JFU here, who's up 15% after hours. So let's take a look. And this is a decent play. Let me look at 5 minutes. So we have this one shoot up today as well in our Chinese play, right? Yep, another Chinese play, investment banking type of play, Chinese financial stock. So this thing goes from $1 to 175, comes back down, holds up around 125, and then is making some moves as well. So yeah, all the China stocks right now, that's where you want to be looking. Now, personally, you can be looking there, but also be careful. Look at WEI. Look at this thing, hit 789. So yeah, at some point they're going to come back down. This is one that I would be very, very concerned with coming down, and I would not be looking to hold this type of stock overnight. You either scalp this for day trades and that's it, but please, it's something that's up 550% on the day. There's almost no way it's staying this high. I mean, if we go back and look at some of the prior history of the stock, we zoom out and see, look at this spike. This is insane. It popped up, it got up to that level. So there you go. But this is just a monster run for someone who is potentially swinging this one, or even just day traders who rode this guy up. But be careful. This is going to come back. This is going to come back down. Maybe it runs tomorrow if there's no other sector or no other news that sparks things, but it's going to come back down. Although we do have some, China had some good, I believe, GDP or good recovery news based off of their economy. So that's also, makes sense. China financials are running based off of the recovery news, so it makes some sense. Microsoft, I'll take a look at Microsoft. Tough build. Yes, I said I'm I'm looking for like I think 72 cents or something like that for Tough Built now. I'm looking at 72. And it's one of those where let it come down, and I'm gonna just keep buying it little by little. I have a decent core average around 80. For me, that's fine. Not super concerned about it, but I'm gonna be holding Tough Built for a PR. That's what I'm looking for a PR, or at least for a run up into earnings, and then we'll probably sell it before earnings, and then after earnings, look to get back in if it doesn't spike. That's my plan for TBLT. And if you really have, if you really want to YOLO it, you can hold some shares into earnings, but I would not hold a full position into earnings. So that's just never a good idea. Microsoft has been a monster. I would say this is a decent spot right here. This 215 area seems to be a decent area that it cracked, or I wouldn't say that 215 is a resistance or support. It's just a range or an area right around that 215 seems to be an area. It came up to a couple times right up in here, 217, So now where we're sitting at, we're at that 215-ish area. So we're right in there. We're bouncing off the 50 SMA. So we'll see if this holds that support for right now. I think that's a solid spot. If not, then you can probably look to like a shorter term trend where I would be looking at something probably, let's take a look at how this guy looks. I would be looking at something like from here. Yeah, of course, I screwed it up. There we go. Something like that. So it's actually a decent spot, decent buy range. Now, if it cracks this, then I would look for it to kind of consolidate in here somewhere around that 208-ish area. And then if it does come down further at 200 and then, 195 looks like is another area. I'd be looking at. This is another one that's like a nice long hold play. These are types of stocks that, you buy and hold long term. You put them in a longer term account and you don't look at them too much. That's really how I would see it. Or if you have 100 shares, which I would highly recommend, you get to a point where, of a couple stocks that you love, you get to a point where you have 100 shares of that stock and you sell call options and you just continue to sell call options out of the money. And okay, it's not like if you sell them far enough out of the money, what is your, okay, people can get, screwed if they get taken out, if it gets taken out. But like, for example, for Microsoft, if I was going to sell every single week, I wanted to sell a call option because I had 100 shares, and I can do this. I can sell covered calls. If you guys don't understand what that is, I have a video on the channel. But so Microsoft at 215. So let's say I wanted to sell like the 225 covered calls, or calls, right? I would be able to collect $15. Now, okay, it's not that much money, but it's like collecting a dividend, right? It's like collecting a dividend on the stocks. Like I can sell these for $15, and if Microsoft goes over 225, which if we take a look at the chart, where is 225? It's up here. Can it get there? It can probably get there with positive stimulus news, but if we get negative stimulus news, it probably won't. Personally, that's just my thought for this week. And then, worst case scenario, you get taken out, but you'll still capitalize on those gains to that level. And then you also get paid to do so. So, I mean, it's up to you. That's how I like that idea. I like selling covered calls, especially on like volatile stocks like SPAQ. I've been doing that and liking it. Now it's monthly, so okay, you can only do it once a month, but I did well on my first SPAQ covered call was the October 16th, and what I did was I looked at them and I was like, well, it was like early on when it had options available, which was like somewhere back in here maybe, and I sold them, and they had, I think honestly it may have been up here, SPAQ may have been up here, but I sold them and I got them for 175 to 25. It was 25. Strike price. So here it is. It was 25 and it was October 16th. And I sold them for 175. Now the November 20th are currently going for 25 cents. Okay, that's crazy. So when you can take advantage of something like that, that's awesome. I literally collected $175, and then worst case scenario, the stock doubles and I make money. Like I make decent money on that. So I was like, this is a win-win for me. That's how I was thinking about it. Let me look at SPY again really quick because I think we have, we're getting close. We're getting some. We'll see what happens here. After hours, we're just sitting. We're just sitting after hours. So not much is going on. Let's take a look. Someone just commented on my video. Sucker. Read the report from Fuzzy Panda. Okay, I did. I actually did. But Fuzzy Panda, when their report for it was, I think, workhorse stock. They had some stuff in there, but they also had a lot of stuff about like YouTuber promotion. And to be completely honest, when it comes to like those videos on like stock promotion, if I make videos on a certain stock, it's because there's a lot of people who are interested in that stock. And many times I'm not even in like Workhorse. I'm not even in Workhorse. But people are interested in it. So I will give you guys my honest thoughts on Workhorse because there's some areas that I'm looking for it to hold, and currently it's holding up here at that 20.45. So $20 is that next level of support that we're looking at. As a long-term play, I think this is a perfectly fine long-term play, but as a short-term trade, options trade or just a trade, we're starting to crack down to the downside. So here's our last ditch levels, double bottom here, that 220 or that 2040-ish area, at 2035. We're very close. So I wouldn't be surprised if we crack down below, and we'll see what happens. But a reversal, I think, at some point is imminent in Workhorse. They've been also putting out news. We have that USPS contract potentially can be announced, at some point in the near future. So, we'll see how that goes. If that doesn't get awarded to them, I think you may want to rethink how heavy you're in Workhorse if you're in Workhorse. But still, this sector is the future. So I would be, if you're buying and holding long term, I wouldn't be super concerned, honestly, at all. That's just my thoughts. LYL, take a look at LYL. LY is right here. This is a stock that was in play a couple of days ago. And then, it's been uptrending, or it's had these spikes and pullbacks. So let me look at the 1 hour chart and get a better sense. So on the 1 hour chart, now every chart is going to have, or every stock's going to have a different story. And the indicators that I use right here are the 50 SMA or the MA50 on Webull and the MA200, mostly for the daily chart. But they can also be used for, any time frame. And it depends. Every stock's holding a different area differently, right? Different levels differently, or different indicators. They respect indicators differently. This is a stock, though, that has held on the 1 hour chart. So here you go. But the charts I like to look at, daily, 4 hour, 1 hour, 1 minute, 5 minute too sometimes. But on the 1 hour chart for a swing trade type of stock, now it's up a lot, pretty risky swing, but it's been respecting this 50 SMA pretty well on the 1 hour chart. So there you go. And it's also a Chinese stock, so it fits the theme of what we're seeing right now. It fits that, Chinese kind of stock theme, low float or small cap stock. So there you go. It's up 12% here, or it's up 16% after hours right now. Look at that. So it's breaking out. 45 will be the next area that we have to pop through to hit new highs, and then that will be a nice little potential breakout to the upside. I think it might get rejected at 450 though, so we'll see. But that's one to look at. GM, yes. Or let me look at GM. They have a lot of stuff, a lot of potential news, or a lot of stuff in the works and stuff like that. So look at this. This has been a solid recovery. If you grab GM on these dips from the overall market sell-off back, virus, when everything was going down, even if not even during that time, even if you grabbed it somewhere in the 20s, you're looking really good. I like it. It's getting up here though. So when I say it's getting up here, it's getting up back into this consolidation. So really, you'd want to see this thing start to push back towards 40. If it gets to 40, if it gets over 40, that's a really bullish sign. So that's what I would be wanting to see. I would not be surprised if it starts pulling back a little bit, but it takes its time. But we can also notice is that on the daily chart here, now I'm zooming in. Let's see if we can get a better view. Here it is. So we can zoom in and we can draw something like this. Look at this trend. So that's a solid trend. So I would look for it to come back to this trend line if possible, or a potential breakout over 40, which then I would maybe you can play or day trade or scalp call options or something like that is personally my thoughts. But again, this is one that also fits and makes and brings up a little quick point. See these gaps? If you're someone who is trading options, right? Now, or you're even just swing trading in general, day trading stuff or being in and not playing overnight, you'll miss the bigger moves. So if you're holding just shares of GM, I think you're fine, right? But you'll capitalize on these moves. But again, you miss a lot of these bigger moves. Look at all these gaps. These gaps now, of course, when things were super volatile back in the day, a couple months back, you had more of that volatility and you had more of these gaps. But I think it's pretty interesting to say that, if you're a day trader, people who talk about day traders who achieve certain returns, if you are a buy and hold long-term investor, right, you got to be, you can't get scared of, drops and, stuff like that. Because if you're looking at stocks like, even like Workhorse, SPAQ, those stocks, those speculative growth stocks that we're looking at now, if you're going to be, panic selling and, freaking out on dips and stuff, you can miss a overnight gap up and a run, right, the next day and miss out on that percentage gain, or at least not have to take as big of a loss. I don't recommend selling these things on red days. I personally don't recommend selling really honestly anything. I like buying stuff on red days. So today I was buying some stuff. And that's really my thoughts. GM, I think, has certainly a big upside. What I also will say is GE has big upside as well. I played it back in here, and I was in pretty heavy at like I had like a low $6 average, and it popped over 7, and I sold it here. And I didn't get back in here, which I just like moved on, but it's back up over 7.30, which is solid. So this is another one that's solid. I think GE is solid longer term. If you want a decent stock, that's sitting down here at these low levels. Now, personally, I wouldn't be buying it right now. It may break out, but we'll see. I would want to see it come back down under 7 to buy some. But even here is not terrible if you're going to play it longer term. I think it's going to make at least some recovery to the upside a little bit. That's what I'm thinking. So there's that. Let's take a look at SPY again. Make sure we don't have anything crazy going on. So now we're getting some action, some volume at least it looks like here after hours. So let me just take a quick check on if I see anything on my phone. So I got some news pulled. Let's see. Nothing yet. So I mean, they were supposed to meet at 4 p.m. Eastern. It's currently 4:30 Eastern. So I wouldn't think we're probably going to get news on that for a little bit. We'll see though. That could take some time. That also news can come out honestly anytime. Let's see. Not seeing too much here at least. So that's that. SPY's getting some volume though. So we'll see. We're getting a little bit of action. So maybe something's going on. But there's potentially some news. Ettx is one that I'm looking at. Not much going on. Someone has bought some shares, 2,000 shares, a little over 2,000 shares at 201. Someone bought 300 at 204. Time and sales. Love looking at that stuff too, especially for stocks that are moving or for finding support and resistance levels. You can really see level 2 in time and sales. I think it's just you must if you're serious about actively trading, then you must know it. If you're a long-term investor, don't worry. You don't have to worry about that stuff. You buy and hold, you're good. Don't worry. And 8KD. Those who have asked me about this one too, this one is a POS. I'll tell you that. But I think the thing is it's gonna go at some point. Now I'm thinking what happens here is that they're either gonna do a reverse split. They're gonna announce news of a reverse split, and we're gonna get a dip and rip. And so dip, and then we'll tighten up the float, and then it potentially rips, or it's going to go off of news soon, and that's what I'm thinking may be the case soon. So I'm still in. I'm not going to, let this bleed out my account. I'm not going in huge. It's a true penny stock under 10 cents, but I think we'll get a reversal. I played it a bunch of times. I played this one this year back when it was like over $1. So it's been just draining, but it is what it is. So that's that. Let's see. Let's take a look at some other ones. NIO was a decent one that finished strong, down a little bit after hours, but still holding up pretty well along these 27-ish level. Seems to be a solid support. Parents made a ton of money on GE back in the day, yeah. So, I mean, and you might be able to do the same. If GE recovers, potentially back to where it was. Let's take a look at that again. If GE does recover, I'm not going to be someone who's going to tell you to go all in, but if you were to be pretty bullish on GE, you can make a good amount of money on even just a little bit of an upside move back to like $10 if it gets back to $10 at some point in the near future. Oversold basically when the market crashed, it went down massively, and you could have grabbed some decent scalps honestly on it. 5 to like 8, like that's a solid percentage. The stock like GE, I wouldn't think GE is going to move in a couple weeks from like 550 to like 850. Who would have thought? But I mean, we'll see. Take a look. Let's go back and I want to look at something else. What was I going to look at? I want to look at GEVO because it's at this trend line. So it's at that trend line. It was up today barely, but it's right there. People were asking me about this one. So we'll see. If it cracks its trend, I think GEVO better buy towards $1. But again, it's at 111 is fine if you're going to be, looking to add on the dips. Ettx was one that someone brought to my attention recently. It closed. That's a shame. I had an order in here for 204 and it didn't fill. So I put an order in for just 150 shares earlier and it didn't fill, but now it pushed up to 220 earlier today and 215 now. So I might not be able to get my fill there on Ettx, but I wanted to. I wanted to. So whoever gave me the idea this weekend, that was a good idea. And we'll see. I hold $2 support is a solid spot. WEI still on crack. To 58% here after hours. It's 8:30 now. My gosh. Look at that. This is insane. Again, this is also another thing too. I think another great day trading strategy is VWAP. So a VWAP, either a double bounce or a VWAP bounce. So you can play something off of VWAP, which is this white line, and then if it hits VWAP, shows signs of support again, holds up on VWAP, that's a solid area with a stop loss just below, and then you can ride up a stock. So for example, a stock like this, right? You can be buying this one at like 630-ish. You got to grab more here at 640. And if you really wanted to grab some more, you can grab some more at 646, and then you could play this break back up over 690, back over $7 a whole number, and then it just pushed from there. So that's a significant move. If you were to day trade that, scalping that guy off of VWAP there, it's a solid move. So that is that. ASTC is moving back. It's trying to get back up. So again, look at this one. It has your first push, and then it's like, okay, it comes down, and then it starts holding up on VWAP. So that's what it's doing for now. Let's see what else. Snap is up pretty significantly. Look at this. Snap is up. This is a potential, bull flag developing to the upside. So we'll see how that goes into the rest of the day. Let's see what else. Boom, boom, boom. I'm gonna be watching tomorrow. I'm thinking we're gonna get a PR. I'm gonna get a PR on something tomorrow. One of my stocks. I'm gonna get a PR. I don't know which one, but I think I'm gonna get one. Something. I got a lot of lines in the water that I just need, a little something. Fubo may pop if they add sports betting, but I also have a position. Lots of insider buying. I'm not gonna lie, I actually have some Fubo. It's a speculative trade in a longer term account. So, let's take a look at what it's. I didn't even see what it did today. Let's take a look at Fubo. So Fubo was one. I think it went to like 13 at one point. It was over 13. Yeah, here it is. So this let's just do the 1 hour chart to get a better view. So we have a stock that went to 1368 pre-market or after hours or extended hours at some point. And it's come back down, but it's pushing back on up, which is a good sign. So it came back down to this 11 area, and it's pushing on up. I like the stock longer term as just a speculative kind of growth stock trade. That's my thoughts, is that this could be, very, very undervalued as it is right now. So we'll see what happens with Fubo going forward. I haven't looked. I haven't seen if there is insider buying. That's a good sign. So that's one thing too. You also want to look at. When it comes to trades, if you see a lot of insider buying, look through the filings. So bamsec.com is a good site when it comes to filings. bamsec.com, and then just type in any ticker, and you can go through all the filings. It's a lot of stuff on there. If you don't know what that is, when I first looked at it, I had absolutely no idea what I was looking at. But give it some time. Start looking up what this form is, or what this form is. Start to understand kind of what makes some sense. 50 Cent urges voters to vote Trump over Biden. It was on Fox News. I saw, didn't someone post, or didn't the Trump campaign post something with like 50 Cent and Ice Cube or something with Trump hats, even though they photoshopped the hats or something like that. That was funny. So we'll see. And we have the debate coming up. We have the stimulus coming up. I mean, we got this. So there's a lot of stuff that this is going to be a very volatile time. So either, okay, now let's see where SPY is pulling down a little bit. So SPY is dropping here a little bit after hours. So we're dropping down to actually red technically on the day, because we were up just 0.4%. Now we're down after hours 0.45. So maybe we have some news. Soon. Let's see. Boom, 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 boom. We have, looks like some other stocks might be moving. Let's see. Nothing else really moving right now. ASTC, WEI still up there. JFU is following pretty well. VOC energy stock popped. Must have had news or something. Snap is still up there, pushing up. Bull flag looks like that 34.15 is like the next pop. And then Carve is moving. Carve is one that, look at this. This is starting to spike here from 6 to about $1 move right now. So BLM stocks with that statement. BLM stocks. Yeah, I believe BLM stocks are starting to move. Carve, parent company, blah, 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 entered into an investment agreement with Bank of America Strategic Investments Corp. Okay, so Carve has some news. So that is that. I don't know if it's Bank of America. So that's interesting. That's an interesting news for Carve. I don't know too much. Carve, actually, if you take a look at the 4 hour, to see, this is a spikeable stock. which would have been nice to grab this thing as it started, holding up and consolidating down in here in that 650-ish area. But it's popping right now. It's up 15% after hours. Yeah, all the BLM stocks seem to be up right now. Or at least they're moving off of that. A lot of times just one stock pops and it goes like the whole China thing. So I'm going to probably wrap things up here pretty much, guys. I'm looking at nothing really else to look at, nothing really to note. So we have that stimulus news coming hopefully tonight. We get good news on that, and we see lots of green the rest of the week. If we don't, we don't, but we'll see what happens. Other than that, I'm going to wrap things up. I should have a video out that I made this weekend, some point tonight, going over. I'll post it in the next couple hours. It's going to be going over the reopening stocks and like just my overall thoughts really on the reopenings, like just reopening stocks in general. Okay, your airline stocks or cruise line stocks, and have one other there that I do like as well. More of a speculative, more of like a big time growth, kind of like a penny stock. Honestly, it's a pretty low price stock, but I like it for reopenings. So have a good night, guys. I appreciate you for all coming in. And I'm going to do more of these in the future for sure. Maybe Thursday. I'm thinking Thursday I might do one of these. And again, of course, every single Sunday we do one as well. So every single Sunday night, make sure you're in for that live stream. And I will see you guys then. Hopefully, check out tonight's video. And other than that, hopefully you guys have a green rest of the week. Peace.